Hi guys, Michael here. And today I'm going to talk about a question I often get from younger viewers. And they're asking, hey, I'm about to graduate high school. I'm looking to go to university. I'm interested in studying something like computer science or engineering, but I'm concerned that studying such a major might influence my social life. Should I still go into these majors even though it might risk destroying my social life? Well, the first thing is, you shouldn't be making a decision on what to study based on the single factor of how it affects your social life. You should be making this decision based on, is it what I'm passionate about? Is it what I'm interested about? Well, the financial return for the time, the return for not just the time you put into it, but the finances. This is more for Americans who pay insane amounts of money for university. I mean, not coming out and being enslaved in debt should also be on your consideration more than, if I'm going to be able to meet girls in this major. Now, to be honest, I studied computer engineering, both a bachelor's in the US and a master's in Germany. And while I was in the US, it really did negatively affect my social life. But that's because I didn't know the things that I'm going to tell you about throughout the remainder of this video. When I got there, it was an environment of 95% men, most of them from Asian countries, and they really weren't interested in really socializing or doing things outside of the schoolwork. And for a lot of them, I can't really blame them because they're on like government scholarships from their countries, and if they lost, their grades dropped just a little bit, they lost them and were basically deported. So they had their own pressures and things to deal with. But for me, I could have done things a lot better. Now, let's be honest, the people who go into STEM majors are mostly very nerdy guys who are very into video games and things like that and weren't super social to begin with. And then you take all these people and you put them in an environment surrounded by each other, and they're just reinforcing each other's negative behaviors. Now, people always wonder why there are not a lot of women in STEM, and I'll tell you the honest reason why there's not. The environment sucks. Here's an anecdote. I remember I was sitting in one class in university, and they were bringing in groups of kids from high school to sit in on the lecture to see if they maybe wanted to attend the university. And these three girls come in, and you should see the look on their face when they walk into the room. Here's a room filled with 95% guys. We're all 3 days sleep deprived because we're working on our final projects. The room probably smells because I don't think everyone's been showering frequently. And the look on their face is just oh, hell no. They decided probably in that single second that they didn't want to study a major like this. Because they're I don't want to, they're just thinking in their mind, they want a social life, right? They're I don't want to be in this environment. I want to probably go to university and find a nice husband or something, and I'm not going to find him here. They always make the joke that as a woman in an engineering major, it's the goods are odd, but the odds are good. I think that's pretty true. I always thought that once I got out of the university, I was all right, I just have to push through these 4 years, and once I'm out and into the real world and working, everything's gonna, it'll be better. And what I realized was, so I went through my 4 years of bachelor's, and when I started interviewing for jobs, flying all around the country, going to all the interviews, meeting with the teams there, they're taking you out to lunch and stuff, and I realized at that moment, oh crap, it doesn't automatically get better. Might for some people, might not, but I realized, wow, here are these jobs. Now the only difference is all the people I studied with, now we're getting paid money, which is great, but we're still in the same environment, right? I remember I went for one interview in Silicon Valley, and I went to the company, right? And the guys took me out to lunch, and here's all these guys that are middle-aged guys, maybe 40s, around 40, and none of them are married. None of them seem to have any social life. They're just working 60 hours a week. They're kind of joking with me, telling me oh, if you come work here, maybe you'll have a life, but probably not. Don't get too excited about it. And I realized at that time, I was shocked. I was oh my God, this is gonna be me in a few years if I continue down the path that I'm still on. And but one of the guys in the team, he was ex-military, and he was asking me questions during the interview oh, what do you do for fun? Do you go out bar hopping? And at the time, I didn't know if this was a trick question. In a job interview, oh, are you a person that goes out drinking? And at the time I was 21, so I really experienced much of that. And I was like, what is this guy really getting at? But now to me, it's obvious. This guy was really like one of the only normal guys, or social guys, let's say, in this environment. And he was looking for someone who is also social to join the team, because he doesn't know, probably have a huge friend group, or most of his friends are probably from work. And he was just desperately looking for someone who's going to be somewhat social and go out with him. So like the answer to the question, do you go out bar hopping? The answer he was looking was yes. He's like, I'm looking for someone that's super social who I can be working with, because I want to get out of this environment as well sometimes and have someone to go with. But he's right in the fact that the number one thing you can do to keep your social skills from atrophying if you're in such a technical environment is spend time outside of that environment. And this was actually one of the things that frustrated me most when after my bachelor's I got to my master's. And after this, actually it was that interview, or that day of interviews, that I realized, like, oh my God, I need to start taking action, or I'm going to end up like all these other people in this office building if I don't start taking this seriously and putting in time to better my social skills. And so when I was in my master's studies, and I wanted to spend every Friday and Saturday night out doing something, because I needed to get out of that normal day-to-day engineering office environment. And one of the most frustrating things for me was finding other people to do this with me. Like, no one else was interested, no one else seemed to care that, there's options, guys. You can go out. It doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to sit here alone, play video games all night. And actually, I kind of got a little resentful towards some people, because I was thinking, like, how can you, they say the thing you hate most in others is the thing you fear the most in yourself. So just seeing their complacency, seeing their willingness just to, let life just pass them by, this just kind of drove me crazy, because it reflected on my own mind, like, how can you be okay with this? Like, if we don't start taking action, do you know the future that's ahead of you? Like, we should get our shit together on this. And it was really frustrating. It was really hard to find people to go out with me. So, but the one thing that got me really good at it was I got very comfortable going out alone at one point, finally. Like, I really had no choice. Like, this is actually after my studies, but I'd been to these job interviews. I saw the environment that I was going towards. I saw my future if I didn't start taking action and trying to improve my skills. And I decided, screw it, I'm gonna have to do this alone. And so I would start going out to the bars and things on the weekends by myself and starting conversations with strangers just to practice. A lot of people are afraid to go out alone because they're afraid to be judged. People are gonna be like, why are you here alone? Where's all your friends? Well, there's a very good answer to these questions. What I would always say is, oh yeah, I study engineering, my friends are really nerdy, and so they don't like to go out and socialize, but I don't like to stay in those environments all the time, so that's why I'm here. And guess what? I've never had someone give me shit for that answer. They're like, oh, okay. It makes perfect sense. So to sum everything up, don't choose a major based on the fact that you're worried that's going to ruin your social life. Choose it based on what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, like what you really want to do with your life. Make that the number one deciding factor. And then secondly, if you do choose a STEM major, be proactive. The fact that you're already watching a video like this already means you're a proactive person. And the fact that this industry in teaching social skills has exploded so much in the last 10 years means you're not alone. This is a problem that's facing a huge portion of the population. You're going to need to make time to practice your social skills. If you have the time to binge watch a TV series or play video games, then you have time to go out and be social in other environments. Because spending time in other environments is key to keep good social skills, especially when you're spending the majority of your time in what may be a non-social environment. And don't be afraid to do things alone if necessary, because in some cases that's going to be even a higher reward, because being able to do things alone is going to build your confidence even more than if you were doing them with someone else. That sums up this video for today. I hope you got some value out of it. If you're interested in learning social skills specifically for dating, you can check out my book, which is linked to in the description below. And if you're interested in learning them in general, there's also an online course I created, also linked to in the description below. Until next time, ciao.